We're going to click this massive plus button here. This is called a trigger. The trigger is the first step, so this workflow starts with this trigger. Every single module afterwards is an action. The difference is, the trigger starts the workflow, the actions are what happens once the workflow is started. For example, maybe I want to call an agent. That would be an action. Maybe I want to create a social media post. That's an action. If I want to update my Google Calendar, that's an action. You can add multiple triggers to a workflow, but let's start with creating a simple trigger for now. I'm going to showcase a couple of options. You can use manual trigger. When you click this, the scenario runs. This is great if you're looking to test things quickly and get something up and running fast. You can delete that and hit the plus button again. This time we'll use on chat message. It comes up with this whole screen. There's nothing that needs to be changed. It works out of the box. You get access to this chat button down here. Click it and start typing messages. Hey, this is our test. We sent the message, but nothing happens because nothing's set up yet. I'm going to delete that because the actual trigger we want is on form submission. When somebody fills out a form on our website, we start this workflow. Let's go through this interface. At the start of this page, we have 3 different sections. On the left-hand side, this is the input data, the data coming in. When somebody submits that form and says their name is John O'Patrick, we'll have that person's name on the left-hand side here. On the right side, we have the output, what we're sending to the next module. When this trigger happens, we send that data to the next module. What data are we sending? It's listed on the right side. Everything else on this page is the system inputs. We can see a URL here. This URL is the form URL. If we open this up, this would be the form URL. We have additional settings for authentication. You can lock the form so somebody needs a password, but for this tutorial, we're just going to create this form submission. I've clicked this and copied this into a new tab. We can see the form trigger isn't listening yet. It says, click test step button in your form trigger. This is happening because we haven't created the form yet. Let's do that. First, I want to create the form title. Let's call it test form. Now we're going to add fields. First name, last name, email, phone number, all that stuff. I'll add first name and this will be a text field. You can change this to text, date, email, whatever. I'm keeping it simple as a text field. Add another form element, last name. Do this again for email. Let's add a couple of more things. I want budget. How much are we charging people? This time we're going to change the element type to a dropdown. Choose from the dropdown list and enter additional options. We can have a budget field from $0 to $1,000. Maybe one client wants to spend between $0 and $1,000. The next option is maybe $1,000 plus. Lastly, we'll have another field called message. Maybe somebody wants to leave a comment or message. We've entered everything on this form. We can come back to this URL, copy it by clicking on it, and enter this into another page. We can still see it's not listening because we have to hit this test step button. Now our form has been created. We've added first name, last name, email, budget, and message. I'm going to add my details here. We'll go ahead and submit this form. In this instance, we have a budget of $1,000 and I'm leaving a test message. We can click submit. Now the data form has been submitted. You have officially received data. We have our input and the output is what we've received from the form. All this data will be passed through to the next module, like Google Sheets. There are different ways to look at this information. Table view, this looks familiar if you've used Google Sheets. You also have JSON data, then you have schema data. This is all the same thing, just 3 different ways of looking at the data. This is tabular data. First name equals John, last name equals O'Patrick. JSON data is a different way of formatting data. This is the backbone of n8n and automation platforms in general. Usually you don't always see data like this, but this is how data is transferred from one application to the next on the internet. Similarly, with table view, you have first name equals John in JSON format. We're going to get into JSON extensively later on. Schema is the 3rd way of looking at it. The cool thing about schema, it shows you the type of field. These are all technically text fields, so they have the A icon here. We've created our first trigger step. One more thing. You can pin this data. What I mean is, now if we want to test this workflow, I'm going to click off of it. To click off, I'm clicking outside on the upper part here, just escape. Now, if we test this workflow, we can test as many times as we want without going back to this form and submitting it again, because we pinned the data. This means moving forward, we don't have to go back and forth and test and waste time because it's pinned. We can edit this pinned data too. If I edit the output, I could change the test message to, hey, I'm interested in working with you. You can edit the test data. This is mock data you can use for the rest of the workflow. To exit out, I'm hitting outside of these boxes. The next thing is we can create our first module by hitting this plus button. The first thing we'll do is use Google Sheets. I'm going to search Sheets at the top and go into Google Sheets. There's a lot of different stuff here. Let's look at this. We can create sheets, delete sheets, append, add, clear, create, delete, and so forth. We can even go further and create triggers. Take how we had this form submission. We could have swapped this out and had a different trigger, such as when a row is added or updated in Google Sheets. These are different triggers. For this tutorial, I want to use update and append row in Google Sheets. This does one of two things. You can either append it, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to add a row to Google Sheets, or we're going to update it if it exists. So we're either going to create it if it doesn't exist or update it if it does exist. Let's choose this and configure it. Now you can see on the left side the input, we got this input from the form submission. All the data we got from here, we can now see. I'm double clicking here and we can see on the left side, first name, last name, budget, message, all that stuff. Yeah, we can see it in schema, we can see it in table view, we can see it in JSON view, 3 different ways to see the same data. Now we need to add this into a Google Sheet. I'm going to type sheets.google.com into the URL up top. I'm going to create a blank spreadsheet here and drag this over. This will be in the blueprint as well. I'm just going to copy what I have here to speed this up. If you want to pause and build the sheet, you can do so. We'll have these columns: first name, last name, email, budget, message, date, and status. Even if you don't spell this properly, no problem. It doesn't matter. We want to send data from n8n into this Google Sheet. How we do that is by first creating credentials up here. This means we're giving n8n permission to do things in Google Sheets like creating, adding, searching, and updating. By the way, those are the most common things to do: create, add, search, or update. We're going to create a credential by hitting the plus button. Then we're just going to sign into our Google account. It's going to redirect us to authenticate. I'm going to hit my account here, click continue, which gives it permission to do things. Now that we've done that, we can move forward. We're going to choose resource, which is a sheet within a document. This is just boilerplate. We don't have to change anything here. The operation we can change. We already selected the operation, but this is giving us another way to change it. If we exit out of this and hit the plus button and search for Google Sheets, you can recall it showed everything here. I'm going to exit out by hitting the escape key and double clicking back in here. We have all these operations available. This gives you flexibility to change operations even after you've made your initial selection.